Folks, our first on-demand workshop, How to Become a Coffee Consultant, is now available for you to learn at your own pace for just €50, and it comes with a certificate upon completion. Go to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the show notes for more details. Support this podcast by supporting our sponsors. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 4 of a 5-part series with Hassan. And we are talking about, in the last episode, we were talking about tech in the future of specialty coffee and the role it's going to play based on the perspective of a Gen Zer, or a Zoomer, as people are calling them these days. And today we want to talk about the role that the cafe and the consumer are going to play in the future and how that's going to evolve. And in the last episode, we left it at kind of introducing this element of VR into the tech conversation. And the reason I wanted to pick up the conversation from VR in this episode is because the role of a human seems to be evolving as AI becomes more a part of our world and the robot becomes a part of the cafe and super automatic machines become a part of the cafe, and we have economic forces putting downward pressure on the cafe model and on the supply chain, as well as on the labor market. So all of these things are playing a really big role. And as you mentioned, Hassan, the consumer is bringing the coffee experience more into their home. Coffee subscriptions, depending on who you speak to and what country you're in, coffee subscriptions for some companies are the thing that's keeping them afloat. And when I look at the role that technology is playing in all of that, what I see is that people are trying to figure out how they can extend to what Starbucks calls the third place. So Starbucks really went on this mission to create the cafe as the third place, the third space for people. You know, home being the first place, work being the second place, and their cafes being the third place. But the pandemic really shifted people's perspectives of that. And I feel like a technology like VR or augmented reality, for those who don't know, VR is virtual reality. And you may have seen, you know, the big VR headsets where you can create a whole world and you can have branded content in there and you can sell things on an app that arrive in somebody's home and it's got a piece of digital art or an NFT associated with it. And then they show that in that world. And then all of a sudden, everybody's making money. Now, this was a model that was proposed during an NFT boom, which crashed. But now it's becoming more a part of the conversation as people are looking at where are we going to evolve things to. So having said all of that, Hassan, where do you think that the consumer, let's start with the consumer, where do you think the consumer is going to position themselves and what are they going to look like as technology plays more of a role and climate change plays more of a role in the way that the supply chain is formulating itself? Where do you think the consumer positions themselves?
Very good question. I think it's going to go back to our original topic of value and what the consumer values most and what they see most interest in. So like we were saying, there's different dynamics. There may be people preferring coffee at home or on-the-go drinking, ready to drink coffee, which they can just pick up from anywhere. And you still have the coffee perspective. So I feel like those are the three key parts, and they're all being brought up and digitalized and technologically being advanced in many different ways. I feel like the consumer is going to position themselves in what they see most suitable for them and their schedules and their environments. The market they're in, what their friends are doing, what their coworkers are doing, what they, where are people kind of following that trend once again, and setting potentially their own paths within this. Maybe they see a machine, like let's say they're over in the US, but they saw this interesting new piece of machine that was developed in Saudi Arabia or the Gulf somewhere, and they want to bring it over, start using it. It's this, milk frother, for example, like we were saying, and then I can make my coffee at home, matching maybe similar quality standards to a cafe. So I think it's going to go and boil back down to what's most suitable for me. What do I see most value in, like we were saying, and what's most enjoyable? What's most fun about all of this, and how can I consume coffee in a way that's suitable for me? Because everyone, as you know, coffee is a very personal thing. I think everyone consumes it in many different ways. So it's going to be truly, truly interesting to see how, as companies and the consumers, and how they shift their focuses and where the trends are. And social media, I feel like, is going to play a big part in this. And like we were saying, VR and AR possibilities are going to push this even further.
What if you had to prioritize experience or beverage quality for the consumer of the future? What's going to win? What's going to, let's talk specifically for your generation, because you're the generation who is going to be real, like you guys are happy to spend on quality. So is experience going to be what hooks you guys into a business, or is the actual beverage quality going to hook you in?
I think both those aspects together, working an interlocked way, is what's going to drag me in. It's not going to be one or the other. I feel like both play a very key part. Yes, I like to spend more money on a high quality beverage, but that comes with the expense from the business side of the experience you're giving me. If, let's say, I'm buying a $9 or pound latte, but the barista I was trying to talk to or interact with, or the cafe I walked into, the environment was off, or the experience was, I'm not coming back. End of story. If you weren't able to sell me maybe the story correctly, the experience, I personally believe a 90% chance that repeat customers not going to be coming back.
Now
so
go on, sorry.
I think both aspects are going to play a very key part, and in particular, the experience you're giving me. Because maybe the coffee was, as you said, okay, or the quality was high. The experience plays a key part in that last touch of maybe, am I going to be coming back? Did he sell me the story correctly?
Right.
Did I meet with the business values? Did I really feel like he took me back to the farm, built me the story from where this bean came from, and how it was processed and roasted and how it ended up in my cup? Like, did he capture all these important things? And of course, the sustainability and the transparency behind all of this. Was this experience and cafe able to capture this correctly?
Do you think that perspective is also true for somebody who's not a specialty coffee professional?
Yes, most definitely. Because
Really?
I think, yes, most definitely. Like when I was working with espresso and seeing what they were doing and the values they uphold, they held very similar values to our industry, but they had very of course completely different products. But I seen it was like seeing things through a different lens, like in a different world of coffee, but with very similar values. And it's truly interesting because, of course, they see quality in a very different way, as
Right.
everyone would. And it's very interesting to how much they care about the customer experience and what they're able to provide, either in the boutiques or, through the machines and, the experience they're able to give, all the master classes they hold. And maybe, for example, augmented reality and VR will help them shift that forwards, even I think with our industry, to pick up back on that note. Because if I'm able to maybe make coffee at home, but maybe I wanted a class, imagine having like a little screen of some augmented reality barista coming up. Hi, welcome, how are you doing? I'm going to show you a little masterclass, being able to take them home with you practically. It's going to be truly interesting, I think.
And that's somewhere where you see the industry going, right? You see it being like in the near future, that's going to be a part of the espresso bar.
Definitely. I think the experience is not going anywhere. It's just the way you deliver the experience and how you can be different, but, relevant at the same time. Because I feel like people who are just currently maybe sticking to a certain way of doing things and not adapting to the market around them, I don't think they're going to last very long, personally. Like if they just think that's the best way, there's no other way, I don't care about what he's doing. I don't care about, what the newest trend is. I don't think they're going to really last in this sort of market because there's going to be many, many changes. And I think the ones who are able to stay relevant, they don't need to go with every trend and every, necessary change. But as long as they're able to stay relevant in a sense, and, at least they know, not the fact that they don't know, they know maybe they're, open to this idea. And then deploying that and executing at the right time is what's going to become very, very valuable.
And what about creating experiences for older generations?
Oh, interesting. I think you could maybe potentially have split in this. For example, in the near future, I would say, upon not the further future, the near future, where you kind of see a split where it's maybe two sides to a cafe, where, one caters more to the less technological, maybe more human-like kind of connection, and then maybe one for kind of the future generations around us, They kind of cater for both at the same time. But then slowly, I personally believe the trend's going to shift more and more to Generation Z overall, as you said, because I think, in my opinion, we're going to be the generation that's going to stick around the longest.
Have world domination.
Dominate a lot of things because of the adaptability. I personally believe it's going to be really interesting.
Easy, Tiger. Like those of us old people are still adaptable. I don't even feel old, but when I hear you talk like this,
not at all.
I think it's fantastic. I think you guys have a hunger for the industry and shaping the future. That's really exciting. The part that we haven't covered is the supply chain. And I think that's going to be really exciting to explore with you, because I know how deeply passionate Gen Z is about the survival of the planet and climate change and sustainability for all its different meanings. So we're going to talk about that in the next episode, folks, the final episode of this series. So join Hassan and I for that. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in, friends. There are 2 ways you can support this podcast. Firstly, become a paid member of our YouTube channel. Secondly, you can join our Patreon for as little as $3 a month. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video before you leave, and check the show notes for more information. Now, this is what you should check out next.